So, do you think we should have a professional intro?
Yeah, this is supposed to be our professional intro.
We're recording now. So we've got to think of another word, haven't we? So I've got a list of words here. I'm just picking them. It's like I feel like Bruce Forsyth on a game show, although significantly more alive. Oh, community.
Immunity.
No, community.
I was going to say immunity.
God, do you think? Sorry, let me get close.
Like COVID vaccines and stuff, and I was
let me get close to the microphone. Community.
Community. Okay, yeah, go for it.
Community and connection is one of the 5 pillars that I talk about. I think it is one of the essential things for people to be well. I know. I'm checking my language in case anyone who knows NLP is listening to this and wants to correct me on it. I do truly believe that actually connection and community, and I use the terms connection and community sometimes to mean the same thing, but community to be huge. If you're not part of a community of people, there's some really significant evidence to show that you're probably going to be lonely, and loneliness is really shit for your health. And I know the World Happiness Report talks about this, and all the stuff over in Finland and in Scandinavia where they talk about happiness all the time, is that there's a significant number of really good quality years for people which are lost due to loneliness because they don't have communities. And we could talk about lockdown and all kinds of things here about how lockdown affected those communities, and also to some degree actually created communities which probably wouldn't have been there before. It's not all doom and gloom. There's some people who came together who just amazing when they came together. But all of the times that I've seen people involved in a community, which is either something they've been drawn towards because they feel that they're like-minded people, or there's some connection, whether it's sport or activity or whatever it is, or people have created their own communities to help other people, it has always ended up being beneficial to people.
I would actually agree that, or say the community is the most important thing. Being in the right community, in fact, probably, because people can be in the wrong communities, and we know actually who we become today as a result of the communities we're raised in.
Yeah.
Whether that's good or bad, the good stuff we learn about ourselves, we learn from our community. The bad stuff we learn about ourselves, or we believe about ourselves, I should say, because I don't think any of us are inherently bad. We learn from our communities. So I would actually say it is the number one thing. Like, we need people to survive, and I think in a way it's people are more aware of that now, and especially in the mental health space. I think we're moving away from the problem is you to the problem is usually what's going on around you in the communities you find yourself in, not necessarily the people, but the environments you find yourself in. And we're finding that people are healing in the right communities, and that's what tends to happen when they got, I know from my career, we wouldn't really do therapy with people who are still in shitty communities, because it could actually open up that Pandora's box of what's going on, and that can actually make things much worse. And actually, it was better to establish them in a safer environment so you could safely explore those things and those emotions and stuff. So it's so important, and it's one of the things that baffles, and I think it baffles me a little bit about, and I fell into this trap probably because of I don't like people, but I didn't have a very strong supportive community growing up. I had people, but I wouldn't say I had strong supportive community. So I very much bought into the individualistic way of well-being. It's all about sort out myself out, put these boundaries up, do this, cut people off, all this sort of stuff you're kind of told. And you have to do that to an extent, but it isn't until you actually get out into the community and test all that stuff that you learn about yourself in the real world that you actually start to recover and heal. And I would say that without community, we are nothing really. I mean, I know people have these fantasies of going away into like the middle of the forest and just being on their own, and that sounds good, but I don't think anyone, maybe there are, and I'm sure there's spiritual books that people do this and they big up their story of doing it. You know, oh, I went away and suddenly I become all enlightened because I was all on my own. I just think you fucking probably just became psychotic, started talking to yourself too much and hallucinating, taking too much ayahuasca or what's it, mushrooms and stuff. You know, mushrooms are lovely, but God, I reckon that's all you do. I'm bored. What am I going to do today? I'll take these because I just think people are deluded. They think I don't think we're meant to be on our own, and we do need our own time, our own space, because that's where we gather our own thoughts, reflect on everything. But generally, we figure it all out amongst other people. We test the waters, and I think we need people around us. So.
Yeah, just
and
for we're not advising people to go and take mushrooms. So,
well, you know what? They are starting to use stuff like that in therapy, and I'm not surprised, to be honest. I'm not saying don't take them on their own and expect to suddenly be healed. But I mean, like, it allows you to explore the more traumatic memories, I believe, from what I understand, and I don't understand a lot about it, to be honest. But
that's a different conversation and place to go. Yeah. But I think you spot on it. There's when you were talking, the Esther Perel came to mind, and I love Esther Perel's stuff about relationships, and she talks about, and I can't remember, I'm going to butcher the quote, and I'm not even going to try and do it in her glorious accent that she speaks in, but it's this idea that you can't expect from one person what a village should provide. You know, we put a lot of things onto one significant other, and I think we put a lot of stuff onto ourselves as well, and that isolation isn't good. And what's the other phrase here? I don't know if it's Esther Perel, but it takes a child to raise a village. That communities are there very, very deliberately too, and it is about testing and measuring. If you're on your own all the time, you will have a belief that certain behaviour is acceptable. It's only when you go out in society and you test that do you truly find out it's available, whether it's acceptable. And that's the thing, you know. Yes, you do the solitude and the isolation, which we all should do to connect with ourselves, but we need to come back and we need to get a reflection of who we are from the people around us. Because if people, you talk to people and you hang around people and they respond in a particular way consistently, you know there's something there to pay attention to. But community is huge, and I mean, you said to me, I think of it as one of those 5 pillars I look at. You look at it as, you know, the way you described it is something which is even more central. And I'm inclined to agree, because if you're in the right community, it allows you to be yourself. It allows you to do the cheesy authenticity thing, because you're not worried about hiding who you are from the people who you're spending time with. If you're in the wrong community, you're constantly trying to be someone else, and the energy it takes to do that. Yeah. And there's other things as well. You know, your physiology and biology is going to be better. You're probably going to eat better and have better nutrition because you're around different people. Your habits are going to be better. You're probably going to sleep and get better rest.
You're just less stressed, aren't you? You're just less stressed when you can be yourself and express warts and all about what's going on for you. You know, that's what it is essentially.
And we see that. I mean, if you look at, I know it's always a bit scary to kind of put your head above the parapet and ask questions about whether men are okay and what can we do for men, and are men struggling. But we know men are struggling. You look at the rates of suicide, and you know,
literally going,
well, it's like, exactly. I'm just my bumhole's twitching like a rabbit's nose at the moment, which luckily you can't see on the video version of this. But we know that men struggle. We know that men struggle with connection to other men. And I'm having a chat with a female friend of mine, and I asked her, I said, you know, from what I understand, female conversations, when it's groups of females, you pretty much know everything about the other person, anatomically and emotionally and psychologically. And she was like, yeah, pretty much. You know, they talk about childbirth and they talk about the shape of their bits and all of this kind of stuff, and their boobs and all of this kind of stuff. Men don't talk about that.
Oh, hold on. We do talk about bits. We just tell all our mates have got tiny dicks.
Well, yeah, there is that. that it does literally become a dick swinging competition. but it's all done in banter. But blokes tend not to get together and talk about things. I know there's a movement where men are doing that, and I've done it with our the meditation sessions that we run locally here in Bromsgrove, which have been amazing. Just this opportunity for men to open up and talk about stuff and realize they're not alone. And that is a small community, but the power in that has been amazing.
But I think it's really interesting to say, because in my job, we're kind of told on like these on social media that, oh, we need to provide spaces for men to talk, and we do need to do that for men to talk. But in my experience, a lot of men just don't want to talk.
Yeah.
And they're okay with that. And like, I've been there where I've probed, because in a way I was like, oh, we need to talk. There's got to be something that needs to work. And no, I don't need to talk. I just need this problem solving. And I think we must, with men and their depression and their mental health problems, we trying to treat them like women, you know, and say that, oh, they just need to talk and explore their emotions. And yes, to an extent, some do. But actually, men want to know that they feel competent. They want to know that they can problem solve. And actually, when they feel like they can't problem solve, now again, this is not all, because it's you know, I'm not saying this is men and this is women, but when they feel like they haven't got their lives together, like they can't pay the bills, they can't do this, they can't do this, they can't do that, they feel like they're inferior and not manly. Now I know we need to challenge that idea of what a man is, but equally I don't think we need to completely eradicate how men perceive themselves completely, you know. And I've sat, and just going back to it, like, I don't think we always need to like go, oh, do you want to talk about how you're feeling, mate? And men will talk about it in other ways. They will express their emotions in other ways. They go to sport, they watch sports, and they get rowdy there. They go have a few pints and they just have a laugh and a joke and stuff. There's other ways you can express emotion than sitting there and talking about it.
And you don't want to remove masculinity.
No. Which I just realised I've deviated from community here, but
no, but it's. I mean, I think this fits into it. I think this is where the conversation's going, and I'm sure people are coming along with us, which is good. If not, we'll see a drastic drop off at this point while people hide. But there's, we don't want to remove masculinity, and that we. Of course, we're talking male female here, and you know, somebody will be listening to this going, yes, but there are other genders. Yes, we acknowledge there are other genders, and that's fine. But we're looking at, that sounded very flippant as well, and it wasn't meant to. But if we're acknowledging things like, the psychological basis for masculinity and the psychological basis for femininity, they're both very different.
Yeah.
Biologically, they're very different. So we're going to have differences there. And, my limited relative understanding, you're looking at things like, I know, listen to Jordan Peterson and various other people. They talk about the fact.
God, we've got to talk about men and now Jordan Peterson.
Yeah,
no one's going to listen, mate.
Sorry. But we talk about the idea of men being more interested in things, women more interested in people, and you can kind of understand that. Men mostly are most men are engineers. We know that most nurses are female, sort of 90 to 10. So there are certain things which seem to be fairly consistent, and we don't want to eradicate all of the stuff which makes these individuals. But something you touched on about competency, I think you used the word competency.
Probably, I don't know. I never know what I say half the time.
Well, we listen back onto the recording and then find out we probably both got it wrong. But I think there's definitely an element of men wanting to be useful.
Yeah.
And knowing that we have a use in the world. And everything has changed. Certainly it's changed in my lifetime in the last 50 years. And, the big shift in feminism towards women having careers, being able to be mothers, all of these things, fantastic stuff. And we don't want to take that away at all. Sometimes in the process, men have got a little bit lost in that, and they're kind of going, well, what's my role? Mm-hmm. And that's hard. And I can put my hand up and talk from my experience of being separated and actually wondering, well, what exactly is my role now? Because it's very different. And that is a whole other discussion. But it's been really interesting looking at how, just with the meditation stuff, we provided a community for a group of men to come together, and most of them are saying the same things. Most of them are having the same conversations, but not all of them want to talk about their problems. Some of them want to go and have a conversation down a pub, or want to go out for a curry, or actually they want to go and throw axes at boards and chest bump each other and high five and that kind of thing, because that gives them what they want, and they get that connection, they get that community from being around other blokes, and it's brilliant.
I was talking about to someone in the role I do in the NHS today, in fact, about how in the absence of, because of fucking shit government have just taken everything away from people, so there's nothing out there for anyone anymore, the gap between what's needed in terms of services NHS wise, from going to your GP or going to see someone like me, because that's what my job is, working in the GP surgery, and going into proper secondary services, is like a 1.5 would be just community-based groups.
Yeah.
And I've said this, I thought this for a while, like actually saying to someone comes to me and goes like, I'm struggling with my mental health, emotional health, I've got this going on. Obviously, we're moving away, not completely, because medication does serve a purpose for some people.
Yeah.
But we're like, I always think, the first thing I'm thinking of is what groups are out there for people? Where can they start to build relationships with people who they can share their experiences, and they can just build relationships that are going to help them to recover, overcome what they've experienced, and hopefully, I know the word always gets thrown around, thrive, but like that's what we want from people. And I actually think, and it's really, and one thing I love about being on LinkedIn, I see so many men, probably because I'm more in tune with what's going on for men than from my own personal experience, the trauma I experienced, but I just see some people doing some amazing work for men right now, and it fills me with so much hope, because I think, like you just touched on, women actually get together and they do this stuff, and obviously I think it's just normal. They have groups and they just get together and they seem to most of the time provide that emotional support, but men don't. But now that's happening for men, and it's not just sitting around talking. Sometimes it is just going axe throwing, or it's going for a walk up a mountain and then jumping in some cold water, and then just having that kind of that community where you can do that and let off some steam. And because that's all most people need, really. They just need a place to let off steam in a way that works for them. Is that maybe that's a journal group, or maybe it is jumping into cold water, or maybe it's just going to watch the football. It doesn't.
Well, maybe it's jumping into cold water while journaling. I mean, let's do. We could call extreme journaling.
Yeah.
I reckon there's a whole range of waterproof journals we've just invented there. We've just invented a whole industry.
Well, do you know, like kids, don't they? They get that waterproof book that they take into the bath, which I don't think a kid has ever read in their life. Maybe that's what you need, a journal. Like you get the duck and you get the waterproof book, and usually there's a kid that's done a shit, so there's a turd in there as well, and it's just kind of floating around together, and you're like, I need a waterproof journal.
Look, Daddy's submarine. How do we get on? We got from community to kids shitting in baths. It's just, well, there you go. But no, it is fascinating, and there's something you said for me which is really key, and well, there's pretty much everything you say is really key as far as I'm concerned. You're a god amongst mortals. Just carry on. Let me blow smoke up your ass a bit. But we know that there is two components to this, and actually this is an episode in itself which we will discuss more. Is the balance between what you are tasked to do as an individual and actually what society should do for you or stop doing to you so that you can get on with it yourself. And what I mean by that in the context of community is, if we look at what happened when we went down the neoliberalism route, particularly from late 70s into 80s, every man at the time for themselves, every individual for themselves, the whole idea that basically it's about making money, it's about creating individual wealth and personal wealth, and it's about you've got to beat it other people at all costs. And we had amazing communities back in the 70s and early 80s. I remember them very, very well, and they seem to drop off. They seem to kind of disappear. They almost became not very trendy. And this whole idea of, if you look at society, neoliberalism stuff, is that if you do really well, society turns around and says, and you know what, we provided the environment for you to do that. But if you don't do well at all, society turns around and goes, well, you fucked that up, didn't you?
Yeah, spot on there, Dave. That's so
and so, if we're looking at small communities, but we're also looking at the bigger community of a country or a place ruled by government, and then we're looking at even bigger continents and things like that. There are communities at every level, but a community, in my opinion, should give people the chance to actually express themselves, but it should also give them support to do things as well. And I mean, I'm pretty sure this would have come up in your nurse training as well. Things around pass and sick roll. Yeah. The idea that when you are okay to provide to society, you provide to society. But as soon as you are not well enough to do it through sickness or injury, whether it's temporary or permanent, society supports you.
Yeah.
And I think there are a lot of people out there who are in situations where they're massively isolated. They cannot get out and be part of society for whatever reason, whether it is injury, illness, trauma, whatever it is. drug use, alcohol use, whatever the reason is, and they're not able to access bits of society and communities which could really help them, and that's a shame.
That's probably mainly because there isn't stuff out there anymore for these people, especially in this country. It's one of the austerity. Look what it's done to people. But I mean, I do also think that if you go on social media and it's all about being the best you can be, how can you achieve success? And I think all what used to be good, what's seen as, what used to be seen as success is, have you got a good family? Have you got good people around you? Have you got a roof over your head? Like, obviously, if they don't matter to you, then that can be problematic. If you just focus, if you're playing it small because you've got these beliefs about yourself, negative beliefs about yourself or whatever. But actually, I think for most people, we're telling them that those normal, really healthy, good things are now not good enough. People look at stuff like community and go, oh, but I should have my own business. I should be traveling around the world. I should be doing this. So they're constantly chasing more and more, and losing touch with the things that actually make us human. I don't think we can just outdo our evolution, how we've learned to survive and thrive, and we thrive in communities. But now everyone's told, be the best you can be. And and it's something I've noticed in my own content. I'm challenging more and more as I see it, because I just think, I told you this before, and I maybe mentioned it on another one of our episodes, how like I used to look when I first started my own journey of recovery, and I looked at people in the pub and thought, God, you're missing out on life here. Now I look at these people and think, actually, you're happier than most of these people I see on social media pretending they're living their best lives, because they're all lonely. They're all lying to you.
Yeah.
And actually, and maybe there's a bit of like ignorance to that. Like, actually, I don't know what's out there, and I'm okay with just in my little world. But like, I actually think that's probably quite healthy, because if you can actually, maybe it's a random way of going about being grateful, but actually people are I'm okay sitting here on my, like, I don't know, say they're someone on 35 grand a year, I've got a wife, I've got 2 kids. Yeah, some of it's stressful, some of it does my head in, but I'm actually quite happy.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think that, and I think there's something missing there. And I said this to someone, I'm thinking about 20 years time, and I've probably said this again on the other episodes, and we're going to look back on a lot of this personal development, self-help stuff and say it made people worse, not better. and that's me being honest. I do think it will, because I think we're always trying to be better, and we're not here to enjoy what we've got. And what matters at the end of the day is, do you have good people? Are you able to do things you enjoy with people you enjoy spending time with?
Freedom.
That's it. Because like, and most things that people will say they enjoy aren't spending thousands and thousands of pounds on these things like luxury cars or whatever. Yes, some people love cars, but like, once you've got a car, well, this is my perspective, it's just another thing that takes you from A to B. I don't know. I think community, like going back to the original point, I would say it is the most important, because our health is holistically, the whole thing is based on the health of the community.
Yeah.
You look at, and so just to add to that, like, like how we look at poverty, and we look at how that affects people, and you get really good parents who live in poverty, who are raising their kids the best they can, and it's not their, and people go, oh, it's their parents are not good enough parents. Actually, it's the stress of not having the support and the things they need around them that mean they can't be present for their kids, that makes it harder for them to be kids, not because they're bad parents. And that all comes from community. Where does community start? It's like, obviously with our neighbours, but it comes from, it's a political thing, community, isn't it? What is our government doing for us and the people at the bottom and everywhere to make sure we are helping you as best we can to meet the basic needs so you can live a good life for yourself?
Yeah.
When that's not done, when that's not happening, this is what we get now. We get more mental health problems, get more emotional health problems, we get physical health problems, and this is what we're seeing.
That was a mic drop moment.
Mm.
It is. It's spot on. Community's huge, and I think about, probably I could rant on about it myself, but where I live, I know my neighbours, and I see them, and I stop and have conversations with them. The town I live in has a market 3 times a week. I know quite a few of the market traders, because if I go to the gym in the morning and I walk back home before I breakfast, get ready to talk to clients or do or post something, life-changing and transformational for other people on LinkedIn, I'll stop and talk to the traders, and they they know me, I know them. We have really good conversations. Are they going to be the people who I'm going to tell my deepest, darkest secrets, and they're going to give me therapy? No, but I know I feel better when I get out around people and talk to them. And whether that is the community of my neighbours, or whether that is the community of my family, or whether that's the community of the local town, or whether that is a formalized group of people, it doesn't really matter. And I think pretty much everyone, if you're in a place where you are struggling, actually going out and being around people who like you, who are like you, and who accept you will be hugely transformational for you.
Or animals. Just like, not to laugh or joke, but I've seen like people who have been through absolutely the worst trauma. Most people want to feel like there's a huge lot of purpose comes from caring for someone,
Yeah,
or something other than yourself. And when you get that kind of they give you that feedback that they actually appreciate you being there. And I've seen some people who've been through absolutely horrendous lives, and they rebuild their life through caring for animals, because they get it's a horse or a dog or a cat, and they're like, oh my God, I feel like I have some worth. So it doesn't even have to, it could be maybe not goldfish. I don't know what a goldfish would give back to you, but
they're a bugger to walk, to be honest. I could never get the lead on them. They're always a problem. But well, there you go, community. Yeah. It's a good thing. You heard it here last. And I've probably heard it many, many times before, but you heard it come from our beautiful mouths. So we'll see you on the next one. So you've been listening to Alex and Dave. And we couldn't actually think of a way to finish off each episode. So Alex is doing his version of Careless Whisper for your listening pleasure. But if you've enjoyed today's episode and you like Alex's musical interlude, then come and tell us. You can find us online somewhere. And if you like what we do, 5-star review would always be good. And share the love. Let's get